So, this match, I say the future of AEW is very, very secured. Oh, I'd like to state that these men are in their mid 20s. They're not even in their prime yet. And we saw Epic at such a young age for them. MJF versus Sammy Guevara. And what a way to end AEW's pandemic era of wrestling. End it with a look at a hopeful future where MJF and Sammy Guevara will main event pay-per-views in the future when they get to that age, when they get to that prime. Imagine the future when MJF wins the world title, I'm predicting next year, and destroys the fans, destroying the fairy tale ending of Hangman Page. Picture that, and then Sammy Guevara faces him at a marquee pay-per-view as the main event. It is absolutely stunning how great this match was. And you got Sammy's flip and fight style, or as I call it, rubber style. And you have MJF doing occasional rubbering, but mostly being the psychological type. And surprisingly, he did not bleed a lot. He didn't bleed in this match like he usually likes to do. Because he wants to be Ric Flair, I think. I'm pretty sure he'll kill me if he ever saw this video. But this match is only a preview of what they could achieve when they get to their prime. I'm hopeful AEW makes it to that point and beyond. Sticks around for a long time. And MJF and Sammy Guevara go ahead and main event shows in their prime, giving it their all. Because that's certainly what they did tonight. They certainly did on Dynamite. It was aggressive. It was high flying. It was psychological. It was chain wrestling galore and rubber galore. Like I had to stop what I was doing for a little bit and really take a look at this match. And I was just stunned at how great it was. I'm still kind of stunned seeing these two go at it. And I was thinking to myself, well, they had to have fought before. They like there's no way they could have this much great chemistry and not have had a singles match pre AEW. So I looked on Cage Match to look into the history of MJF and Sammy Guevara's fights. With the exception of tag matches, there isn't. They've never had a fight until now. And this match shows future. They could have just said it. They could have taglined the show AEW Dynamite the future. And that's it. You sold it. I get it. Like, I know AEW is not perfect. It's not perfect. I get that. And yet there are so many tribalists trying to demonize the company because it's a symbol of defiance. Even though it's just a company to me, it's a wrestling company, a more fan-oriented company, and not the big monopoly company that will willingly kill someone just to make a quick buck if they wanted to, if that was legal. I'm like, this is the same company that thinks, we own your real names, and we can take your third-party rights away. So, yeah. I get it. The shots they can get overbearing at times. As a fan who is just fed up with WWE, I get it. I get the other side where they say AEW does the shots too much, and I'm on that other side where I'm like, but is it not credible though? What WWE has done, you wouldn't think that if you had an opportunity to go on a live mic on TV, on with the entire world watching you, as much as people as possible, and saying WWE did this, WWE is a horrible place, WWE is the the the, the Monopoly wrestling game, and we're the youngins. It's raining out, I know. So if it thunders and lightnings, yeah. But I just need to make this video. I watched this match and I was just in awe of how insane it was. The chain wrestling, going back and forth with pinfalls, it's and it almost looked like it was going to end in a draw on that. And man, I can't wait for the unedited cut version of this when it goes on Bleacher Report Live in like a month, and just watch the whole raw emotion without the picture-in-picture and commercials. And like I get the one issue with this match where MJF does a top rope tombstone pile driver, and you're like, that should be it. I get it. That's what I get. But this was just a match to say, let's showcase who we're going to have in the company for the next 10 years. Who's going to main event shows in the next 15 years. Who's going to steal a show for the next 10 years. Then I say, okay, I'm all right with it. And yeah, it does get... and like, I was definitely worried after that tombstone pile driver where it looked like... Or it looked like... MJF was hurt, like he tweaked his leg and tweaked his knee and couldn't move right. Like, it was hard to tell if he was that damn good at selling because he's better than you and you know it, or if he was legitimately hurt but trying to pass it off like he was selling, because Mickey James was able to fool the ref and that screwed everything up. I'm amazed just as much as you about that, but like. And people were a little iffy on the ending. And I'm like, if MJF was hurt, then okay, fine. But if he wasn't, then it's hard to really go with this because AEW knew there has to be a loser in this match. But there doesn't have to be a clean winner because you have, like, this isn't a case where MJF can pin Jericho and MJF can beat Jericho and Jericho will be fine. He is Jericho. He is Chris Jericho. He will be fine. MJF, Sammy Guevara could pin Shawn Spears, and while Shawn Spears is slightly damaged by this because he looks like he's the guy that's just there to take the falls for the Pinnacle, he's kind of like okay in that spot since he's in a high storyline. So you add this element where you have to go a dirty route. You have to end it on a dirty route because that's the only way you could protect both. Like, MJF could have beaten him clean. Sammy could have beaten him clean. But whatever. But really, besides the victor, would the person who lost the match benefit from it? Depending on your perception on how they handle it, how they come back from the loss. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Shawn Spears, like, look at him. He lost this big major match with Cody and it took a year and a half just to fix him. And even then, he's still that guy who has to be the one that loses for the team, most likely, as he was put in that position. But now it took so long to him build back up. Look at Bray Wyatt in WWE. He was damaged for 6 years, finally gets on the ground, then goes ahead and gets screwed over again, then gets on the ground again, then they screw him over again, then gets on the ground, then they screw him over again, and now he's just in this limbo state again. And the cycle repeats itself. And that annoys me. So, Sammy and MJF had killed a 20-minute match on this. They did 20 minutes. They went at it for 20 minutes, and it is a glorious way to end the pandemic era of AEW, the AEW Daily's Place era. I really love this match. And I just think to myself when I watch it, what's it going to be like 10 years from now? When these two get in their prime years and they're main eventing a pay-per-view and they're going to steal the show with the world title on the line. I see that happening in probably sooner, depending on how they portray, who dethrones Hangman next. Because I still think Hangman's the one that's going to be Kenny down the road this year. And I definitely am that guy that thinks that MJF could be the one that ends the fairy tale of Hangman. And then we go all right with this. And you gotta remember, I had to just look at this up myself. Let me just look this up just to get this accurate. Sammy Guevara is 185 pounds. And MJF is 226. He's 25. So I'm a year older than him. So I'll be a year older than him. And Sammy Guevara is 27. Yeah. I think AEW's future is very secure on this for the next 10 years if they keep going and if they keep getting home runs enough. And yeah, I look at them and I'm thinking, man, this is such a great match. And the sad thing is, I can't picture in WWE. I really can't. Maybe MJF had more of a chance in WWE because he though my worry is that he'd be another version of the Miz for Vince. He'll look at MJF and think you're like Miz, so you either have to be his protege or you can't be him. Like when he showed up on NXT as a security guard, he was pushed by Samoa Joe. If that doesn't define what WWE would probably have looked at MJF, I would have been, yeah. And Sammy Guevara, he would have been on 205 Live. He would have been a cruiserweight wrestler. They would have looked at him and said, "You're not big enough. You're not ripped. You're not muscle bulked to the extreme. You're not Roman Reigns." And considering their track record with people of Latino origins and their track record, since they can't really imagine any Latino wrestler that is not a Rey Mysterio or Eddie Guerrero, well, you have to be like those two. You can't be your own person. That's stupid. Like even Sasha Banks, even she got the whole Eddie Guerrero comparison, and I'm like, why? Why? So yeah, and I'm looking at this match and I'm thinking like, man, this would, and here's the tragedy in this, in my opinion. They probably would have had this kind of match on 205 Live if people would just called it an underrated gem. That's the tragedy. That, like, I'm not saying underrated gems aren't great, but when you're say this guy here, oh, he could be the future, you wouldn't get that in WWE. I definitely don't think that. I definitely think that WWE would have looked at these two and said, "You're just mid carders. You don't have what we want, or you need to be like this person because you're clearly the next insert name here from another era." I am so glad that AEW exists. I'm sure, and I don't know if they would have went to WWE if AEW didn't exist. We'll probably never know, and probably in another reality somewhere in the universe, in the multiverse. But I'm glad this exists because I'm just stunned at this match. It's so great, and it just reminds me what AEW is promising to be, hopefully. And hopefully it sticks to that promise to be the fan company, to be the symbol for the new generation of wrestlers that don't have to follow the themes of their past era lives, where you have to take these steps, go to WWE, you're there. You're just happy to be there. No, 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 no. You're not. Yeah, and then if you're hungry, you can try and make it to the big leagues if you fit a certain criteria. No, 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 no. You can, like we live in a world. We live in a wrestling world where we could have a person named Orange Cassidy and Jungle Boy compete in main event matches against the world champion. We can have that world. We can have a world where Roman Reigns is taking on Seth Rollins. We can live in that world. We can accept that world. We can accept this world. We can accept both worlds. We can live in a wrestling world where WWE does their own thing, AEW does their own thing, and if they want to take shots at each other, fine. Let them. Let them take shots at each other. It's fun for them. It's also publicity, but WWE doesn't really need the publicity because it's WWE. Everyone who doesn't even watch wrestling would know, oh, that's WWE. Oh, I know what WWE is. That's that wrestling company, right? I'm like, that's a very wrong term for Vince because he'll be offended by that, but he is technically right. They know what WWE is. AEW, let them grow. Let them be big. Don't wish for it to fail. Even if you don't like it, you shouldn't just wish for the company to just kill itself because it does it. It goes against my mindset. It goes against the monopoly set I am stuck with because I've been wired to think this should be the way it goes. Not this way. If it goes that way, it's objectively wrong. We can live in this world where both companies exist. You can have this idea that this way works. But can we also have the way that we think this should go? Or it could go anywhere. We can live in a world where AEW partners with Impact. We can live in a world where New Japan Pro Wrestling is working with AEW. We can live in a world where WWE is acquiring territories just to acquire more video rights. And while I will always have my criticisms of WWE, and I will say, but I don't wish for Vince to die. I don't wish Vince's death. I don't wish WWE goes bankrupt. Investigated at best is the best case scenario I want, because there's some serious cleaning house of toxicity it probably needs to deal with, and more good treatments for their employees. And I do mean that, not independent contractors. But that's a dream scenario for me. I'm not wishing for WWE to go out of business. I'm not wishing for AEW to go out of business. I'm not wishing for any wrestling company to go out of business. It sucks because the market shrinks. Even if WWE is the big leagues and they have this multi-billion-dollar money coming in, what happens if every company, every promotion went out of business? Right now, if it went out of business, what would WWE do left to do? They would only have the performance center to generate people. If WWE bought everything or everything collapsed tomorrow, what could WWE get from anything from that? AEW exists, and it benefits WWE whether they admit it or not. Whether tribalists admit it or not. WWE existing will benefit AEW. Because look at all the talents that say, I want to go there now. I want to hang out. I want to run over there. And if I can make, like this is what Jericho said in WCW's documentary. I know I'm talking about more about the political stuff of the corporations, but this is the best way to describe it. If you can go to these places, WWE is now like the place you can just make quick money there. Still, you have to work a log schedule and all that, and yeah, but really, WWE is like that place you just want to make big cash. If you're really hungry, if you really want to grind and prove your worth and leave a legacy, you go to AEW, you go to Impact, you go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, you go to all these places, and I am glad these two went all elite. Could we see them in WWE down the road? Maybe. Like MJF teased that he could, that if the offer ever came, he would consider it. I could imagine John Moxley going back if it really, if the offer was good enough and if he got treated with more respect. All FTR wanted from WWE was respect. WWE could have just given that and they would have stayed. AEW probably wouldn't have existed if WWE just gave a lot of people respect. Like, yes, everyone accepts that they can't be on the card 24/7. They can't be the main event. They can't be champions because then we'll have a saturation problem. I think the biggest thing people want when they work for WWE, at least, is just to be treated with respect. That's all FTR wanted. They turned down $1 million contracts. John Moxley turned down $1 million contracts. All these talents turned down multi-million dollar contracts. Andrade, who met Charlotte and is going to be with her and get married with her and part of the Flair dynasty now, he left and he was offered millions. Because, well, I can always come back here. I'll come back one day. But I want to wrestle. I want to go and wrestle. I want to not just be in catering all day. I can do that later. I want to do this now. Sammy Guevara and MJF, they probably would have been told, go to 205 and then you're on 205 Live and then you're a cruiserweight in NXT. You probably would be something more in NXT, but when the call-up comes, because they know they will, they'll say, you're not what we're looking for, kids. Good luck in mid-card. Good luck being beaten down. Good luck being guys who could main event big pay-per-view events. But because they're so stuck in this one philosophy, if they want to have it, fine. But it's so not with the real world nowadays as it changes. And WWE's own fear of Hollywood coming and knocking on the door every time. Yeah. Sammy's only been wrestling for 10 years. MJF, let's see how long he's been wrestling again. I know he wrestled at All Out. He's been wrestling for 6 years. He's been wrestling for 6 years. Sammy's been wrestling for 11 years. Look where they're at. There's still a long way they can go. And I'm going to love every moment of it. So, yeah. Classic. This is a classic match, and this is only the untapped potential. Once they get older, once they're in their prime, then it's going to be perfection. They have the time. This was Neo Reality Entertainment, the WrestleVerse, presenting MJF versus Sammy Guevara on AEW Dynamite, the end of the Daily's Place pandemic era. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, check out my other content in the description below. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you next time. Peace and take care, everyone. And I hope you all have a nice day, because MJF is better than you, and you know it.